playing Rainbow Six Siege and you want a quick peek, I'm going to show you exactly how you can do it in today's Siege and how it evolved over the years. So this is going to be a video about leaning, so there's one thing I want to emphasize first, alright? Don't use your mouse buttons to lean, alright? It messes up your aim. At the highest level, you're going to notice it. So just learn how to do QE, alright? If you can do all the leans I'm about to show you right now, then you pretty much mastered it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over all three forms of leaning that existed in the history of Rainbow Six Siege. So the first type of lean was called the Beaulo lean. Back in the day, the animation going from one side to the other was much slower than going Q to E or E to Q. And the reason why it was called a Beaulo lean isn't only because he made it popular, but because he was so consistent at doing it that he would be dropping double-digit games almost every night. And this is exactly how you used to do it back in the day. And this is how fast quick lean was back in the day. Eventually, they wanted to nerf Beaulo, so what happened was they gave everyone quick lean. That way no one had an advantage. So you thought this was hard, right? What you can do now is just use your middle finger, and that's it. And everyone was going light speeds. And this is how fast normal leaning was. Now we're going to go over today's quick lean, the Shaiiko Lean. The thing about the Shaiiko Lean is that it isn't necessarily a quick lean, but if you do it correctly and expose as little of yourself as possible, they don't see you, you get the information and can use it for a pre-fire. So why should you learn the Shaiiko Peek? The good thing about the Shaiiko Peek is that it lets you face check something without dying. So let's say you think someone's holding an angle. What you can do is if you do a quick Shaiiko Peek, you can get the information without dying and then just re-peek it with all the information. Here's one way I use the Shaiiko Peek to get an entry on Outback. So what I do right here is I drone them out, and usually whenever people see a drone, either they go kill the drone first, or they try to reposition. So I use the Shaiiko Peek to both find the correct crosshair placement, and I did instantly, so I was already locked onto his head. And when I did this Shaiiko Peek, I even added a crouch to it. So this guy didn't even see me, because I didn't even expose my entire body at this point, right? So I yanked my head away, right? Which is what you're supposed to do in the Shaiiko Lean, and I just hit him with a pre-fire. So there's four main steps in the Shaiiko Peeking Summon. The first is to pre-aim the angle. Second is to lean in and strafe and figure out where they're standing, whether they're crouched or standing. And the third is to retreat and correct your pre-aim to wherever they are. And the fourth is to re-swing with a pre-fire. So let's do that in one go. So the first thing you want to master before you even get into leaning is your crosshair placement. So you need to know exactly where all the angles are, that way you can look at it through the wall, and when you do have to swing it, you know exactly where to aim. So the main goal of Shaiiko Peeking is actually just to be able to punish anyone that's holding an angle against you, because there is peeker's advantage. If you see him first, right, what's gonna happen is you're gonna bait out a shot like this, and then you're gonna re-swing with a crouch, and they're dead. Our practice Shaiiko Lean is just to get used to your fingers moving. So your ring finger, as long as it can click both E and D in quick succession, you're good. And your ring finger, if it can do QA really quick, do that as well. So if you look at my fingers, what I'm doing right here is I'm doing the Shaiiko Lean from the left side. Right? So what's happening with my ring finger is that it's always moving, right? Your middle finger is probably your most important finger, because this is the one that presses the key that you use to retreat no matter which way you're going. So if I'm doing a Shaiiko Lean like this, right? See how my key hits E, right? Same thing for the other side. This is supposed to be pressing Q. It's supposed to pull you back whenever you're doing Shaiiko Lean. As long as you train your ring finger and your index finger, you shouldn't have any issue doing the lean, but adding a crouch is where it gets real. There's two ways to add a crouch into the Shaiiko Lean. The first way is by doing it on the second lean. And the advanced way to do it is by adding the crouch with the lean. The reason why this is so difficult is because you have to press the same key twice when you're going down and going back up. So typically whenever you do a Shaiiko Lean, just the lean in key is the only key that you're pressing twice. But here you're adding a second key that you also have to double press. So now let me explain the importance of crouching. So back in the day, there was something called crouch spam, where crouching was 2 times as fast as it was right now. So your head would go all the way from here, down here, like in an instant. Like, it would go like... Whenever you crouch, what you're doing is you're disrupting the pre-aim that the enemy team has on you. So if they're holding an angle on the head level, right? Instantly, as soon as you swing the door, you're already down here. It's the best example of head level that I can give. For example, right over here, I hit him with a quick Shaiiko Peek, right? And instantly, you see the tracers all the way up here. He's pre-firing exactly where my head was. But since I am now crouched, the first pixel that I am visible to him, right? I'm already aiming straight at the head level. I am crouched, the bullets are still flying right above me. He gets fried. In my opinion, the Shaiiko Peek is one of those things that differentiates a good player from a normal player. See, at the highest level of rank play, there are a lot of things a player can master. You see, some people learn the SMG-11 recoil, some people learn how to play MAV, some people are boring and they can only play LMGs. The thing about the Shaiiko Lean is that it's one of those things that you can use to impress your friends. Like, let me give an example, alright? Let's imagine you're arguing with your wife, right? And she sees your fingers doing this, right? it's a win-win for you. Alright, you're not losing in ranked, and you actually master something that less than 1% of Siege players can do. Now, at one point, you might ask yourself, hey, I learned the lean. I am trying my best to use it in game. I almost never use it. I don't see myself improving in the game. The way I see it is that if you can perform this high-level technique, right, you master the art of head movement. And head movement is basically where when you engage in a gunfight and you decide whether to lean the other way, crouch, you avoid getting headshotted. Having practiced the old quick lean and the new Shaiiko Lean, it also gave me really good crosshair placement. With the head movement and the crosshair placement, not only am I dying less, I'm actually winning more gunfights, and in the gunfights that I do win, I also get a lot more headshots. You have to remind yourself that you cannot be using W or S while you're swinging. If you do that, what you're doing is you're moving diagonally. When you're moving diagonally, on their end, you are moving slower than as if you were going completely perpendicular using A or D. You also have to remember you're not going to be using the Shaiiko Lean every time you're in a gunfight. The purpose of the Shaiiko Lean is really just to kill anyone that's holding an angle against you. If someone is behind a shield or playing an off angle, it's best to just swing perpendicular to them. But that is all that I have for you guys today. Alright, my biggest tip is just to practice. When the first quick lean came out, I wasn't able to do it for a whole, 2 months. It was very hard to master. It was a lot of strain on the fingers. You have to pretty much train yourself to be able to do the quick lean. If you haven't noticed already, most of this video is recorded in T-Hunt. The reason for that being is because all of the skills that I've ever learned in Siege, I have mastered by playing them in T-Hunt. Whether it was my leans, whether it was my flicks, my actual recoil control, all of that I mastered in T-Hunt. See, they really wasn't lying when they said practice makes perfect. When you practice, what you're doing is you're building up all the abilities in your skill set. That's one thing professional Rainbow Six Siege players have. Fast skill set to perform at the highest level of play, and leaning is one of those skills. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys learned a lot with this guide, and I hope you guys can take it into your ranked games to win.